So we have this problem, static range sum. What it's basically telling us is that a set of numbers, specifically a set of n numbers, are given to us, and we have q queries. And for each of the queries, we start from the starting index and we end at the ending index minus 1. So it would be 2, and then 3 minus 1 is also 2. So this would be index 2, 2. This one would be index 0, 2, 3 minus 1 equals 2. And for each of these starting and ending ranges, we would take all of the numbers inclusive and in between these ranges and add them all up and return a sum. And so for example here, we have 2 and 3, which is basically index starting from index 2 and ending from index 3 minus 1 equals 2. So we start from index 2, 0, 1, 2, and end on index 2. And the sum of all of that is just 100. So that's the answer. For index 0 to 3, we start on index 0 and end at index 2. So it would be these three numbers added together, which is 111. And we do that for all of these queries. So if I were just to write the problem, sample input down, 1, 10, 100, 1000, 10,000. And let's write two ranges. Actually, no. Yeah, let's write two ranges down here, 2, 3, and then 0 and 3. So 2, 3, of course, is telling us we start from index 2 and we end on index 3 minus 1 equals 2. And 0, 3, we start on index 1, or start on index 0, and then end on index 3 minus 1 is 2. So a demonstration of that would be we start from 2 and end on 2. So that's 100. And then we start on 0 and we end on 2 again. So we would add all of these numbers up and it would be 111. And so this is a pretty easy problem. There's obviously one very simple solution that comes to mind is obviously you take the starting range, you take the ending range, and then you just use a for loop and add all of these together. So 1 plus 10 equals 11, 11 plus 100 equals 111, and then you get your answer. And the problem with that is it works, but it's really slow because for each of these ranges, you have to iterate through every single number, and this array size can get really large, and so you're going to be iterating a lot of times for every single query. The second way is because we know that we're starting at a range, ending at a range, and everything inside is being added consecutively, where like we start and then end and all the numbers inside, we know all of them are being added, we can just use prefix sums. And if you don't know what that is, you can refer to a guide that I will link down below, as well as a video I have on it, which is also going to be linked down below. But basically prefix sums is we're going to create a one indexed array and we're going to add up, and for each of the index we're just going to add up all the previous values or all the total values of the original array. So we have 0, 1 because that's the first one, 11 because 10 minus 1 or 10 plus 1, and then we have 111 because 100 plus 11, and 11 is 10 plus 1. But yeah, 111, and then 1111, which is 1000 plus 111, which is goes down to 11 plus 100, and yeah, it's so on. And then at the end we have 11,111. So now that we have our prefix sums array, first what we need to do is we read in the queries, but because 2 and 3 are 0 indexed queries, we need to add 1 to each of them to make them one index, so they work with our prefix sums array. So now they're one indexed, and now we have to take the second range and minus 1 because that's what the problem wants us to do. So our new range is 3 and 3. So let's do 0, 1, 2, 3, and you can see immediately it's 111. But for prefix sums, the ending array is the same, but for the starting index, we're going to take the starting index and subtract 1. So it's actually going to be 111 minus 11. Therefore, the answer is 100. And let's do this with another query. So another query we have 0 and 3. So we're going to take that and then we're going to add 1 to each of them for one indexed array, and then we're going to minus 1 from 4, so 1 and 3. And we're going to start from 3, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 111 minus 1, but 1 and then with minus 1 is 0. So it's 111 minus 0, which is 111, which is the answer. So how we can code this is we'll start off with the main function, and we're going to define a LL as long, because we're going to be using longs in our code here. And we're going to create a variable n and q, and we're going to read in those variables. And we're also going to need a vector to hold in our original values, or original set of values. So this is going to have the size of n, because we have n values. And then we're going to create a for loop, which is also going to go n times. And for each of these n times, we're going to read in our number and set that number to the index of our array. And once we have the original array, we can now create a prefix sums array. So prefix sums, and then this size is going to be n plus 1, because prefix sums arrays are going to be 1 indexed. So now we can create a new for loop, except this time I is going to start from 1, because we don't need the 0th index. That's always going to be 0 in our prefix sums array. And that means to get to the end of the array, we need to do I smaller than or equal to n. Once we have that, it's pretty simple. The prefix sums of the current is going to be the previous value of the prefix sums array plus the current value of our current array. Whoops, all my variables are messed up. So prefix sums current is equal to the previous prefix sums plus the current array value. And the reason that I'm saying current but I'm doing I minus 1 is because, remember, we're starting from 1, the loop is starting from 1, and the prefix sums array is 1 indexed, while the normal array is 0 indexed. So to get the current, we actually need to do I minus 1. But once we've made the prefix sums array, we can now read in our queries and actually calculate them. So we're going to do q queries int a b, read in the queries, and then we're going to add 1 to each of the queries to convert them to 1 index. But for b, it tells us we need to subtract 1. So we actually don't need this plus 1 minus 1, because they cancel out. And then we can create our sum, which is equal to current large index minus the smaller index, or smaller range, minus 1, which is how we calculate prefix sums. And then we can print out the result. And now if we take this code and submit it into our website, and you can see our status, we got all correct down here. And yeah,